Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward, special TASA midwinter edition here in Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez, and I have a very special guest with me today, Dr. Larry Polk, proud superintendent of Colorado ISD. Now, for our listeners, our viewers, Colorado, we're not going skiing, are we?
No, sir.
Tell us a little bit about your district.
Man, I tell you, Colorado ISD is located in Colorado City, Texas.
So I messed up the pronunciation, didn't I?
Yeah,
Colorado.
You have to say it, and that's how the locals know if you're from that area. Because if you call it Colorado like it's spelled, then they say, okay, this guy's not from West Texas. So it's Colorado ISD. We're in Mitchell County, just between Sweetwater and Midland.
Okay.
I've been there for 1 year, and I came from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and so most of the people said, hey, this is going to be a culture shock. But what they didn't realize is I'm a West Texas guy. So I'm back to my West Texas roots.
You went home.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Grew up in Lubbock, and so we're very proud to have the opportunity to serve the 928 students there in Colorado ISD. After just a year on the job, we are still in that honeymoon period. And so we're excited about the transitions that are taking place, creating these systems designed for all of our stakeholders and our teammates to be able to build the capacity. Because at the end of the day, it's all about student outcomes and student achievement.
100%. So I got to ask you, so when I was given my first district, I would say not speech, but the first time you're really addressing the entire district. Tell me how you prepared for that, because mine was, I was worried about it, nervous. Like, take me through your process.
Well, it's all about just being yourself, because as the newcomer, everybody's trying to see if, is the new boss going to be a micromanager? Is he going to allow us to have a complete autonomy to do what we've done? And I said to the staff, look, I'm here to serve you. I'm a transformational leader. I'm a servant leader. And for the first year, we're not going to change anything.
Right.
We're going to listen, and we're going to learn from this organization and the things that you've done well. We're going to continue to replicate those, and the things that need adjusting to increase student outcomes, and we're definitely going to look at those. And so we tried to lower the anxiety. We were very strategic in how we did that. One of the things that we were very adamant about is that we wanted to introduce an ideology.
Okay.
And that ideology came from Damon's West book, The Coffee Bean.
Okay.
And so we wanted everyone in the organization as well as the city to be able to answer the question, are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? And so we rolled out that, and it was the resilience and the fact that regardless of how hot the water of life boils us, we're not going to, get soft like a carrot. We're not going to get hard like an egg, but we're going to be a coffee bean.
Okay.
We're going to be stronger. And so folks were going around, are you a coffee bean? And I'm like, yeah. Starbucks is in Abilene.
That's awesome.
So it was cool.
So it resonated with the staff.
It did.
I love that.
It did.
Well, share some of the highlights from the first semester of this year. And, give me some of your wins for your kids or your staff.
I tell you, the biggest win was we had a D-rated campus at our middle school. And so, when we looked at the data, what we discovered is not that effective instruction wasn't happening. I think we just didn't have a laser-like focus on the big pieces that needed to be altered.
Right.
And so we began our work with PLCs. We began our work at having practitioners to look at just how they're able to impact their students. And what we were saying to our teachers is that before we engage in a campus-wide transformation, we want you to just start with the kids in your classroom. Mm-hmm. Building those genuine and authentic relationships, because what we've learned is that every kid needs a champion, and the reality is that kids will perform when they know that their teacher cares about them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, that was one of the things that has had to change over time. And I remember my teachers telling me this, and even when I'm a young teacher, the mindset of, look, my job is to deliver instruction. Kids don't have to like me, they don't have to love me. I'm trying to get them knowledge, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I think we found out that kids have to be excited to come to school.
They do.
And if you think that they don't have to like you and they're just going to perform, I don't see that happening anymore.
It won't.
It won't. You really got to have a love and a passion and a heart for patience to get them on your side.
That's exactly right, sir.
You know, I mean,
Exactly right.
and that's been a little bit of a struggle, you know, all together throughout education, but I feel like we've turned that corner where now our teachers and our administrators are understanding it's all about winning the relationship, the hearts and the minds, and then you'll get some buy-in on what you're trying to give them, right? Which is opportunity.
Yes.
Now, from a leadership standpoint, how do you go about your coaching and feedback? What's your preferred method? Because everybody I was talking to, Wade Stanford, we were kind of hashing out like a little bit of the philosophy of coaching. But in terms of your teachers and your administrators, everybody needs coaching. I believe everybody, doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, everybody can get a little bit better.
That's right.
What's your philosophy on that?
Well, you know, mine is from the standpoint of being a truth teller.
Okay.
And I think in public education, oftentimes, we want to sugarcoat the brutal reality.
Yeah.
And so in order for us to go from good to great, it's imperative that we be truthful to our practitioners. If I'm walking through a classroom and instruction is not effective, students are not engaged, I'm not going to tell that teacher or that educator that things are going well.
Right.
I'm going to say that there's an opportunity for us to grow here. And it's not a beat down, obviously, but you do have to be truthful.
Sure.
Because they're going to take that feedback, and in order for them to grow, we have to create reflective practitioners. And so it's very important for me that we hold that mirror as administrators, and that mirror is not just for them to reflect on the things that they're doing, but also for us to provide them with the opportunity to receive. So I tell folks in the organization all the time that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that you can actively listen to what's being communicated in terms of the feedback, but I also want you to hear my message. Mm-hmm. And in order to hear my message, it requires your heart. Because you have a heart for teaching. I don't think any practitioner gets up every day and go into an environment to fail. They just don't know how to do the things that they need to do in order to be more effective. And so that's the premise of that. So just like in the classroom, it's about building relationships to teach kids. When you're coaching adults, it's about building and establishing that relationship as well.
You know, that's a great point. I really like how you framed that. And going back to your initial address of staff, right? You're going to take a year. We're going to spend a year to engage and to get to know, to trust, all of those things. And one of my things that I admittedly am horrible about is jumping in way too fast. And I'll be the first to admit I've made those mistakes, you know. And I always struggle with the balance between, I've got kids in classrooms, right? And if things aren't going well, that kid has 1 chance in 2nd grade.
Yes.
And if I wait, every day that goes by, that gap increases, or they don't get what they need, or I don't correct something, or we don't have a difficult conversation.
Right.
How do you balance the need for, all right, I know we got some things, but I've also got to be cognizant of how we do this?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Because I didn't do that well. I'm gonna be honest.
I can be candid with you that, you know, experience is a great teacher, and reality is a humbling creature. When I was an early administrator, educator, I was going in just like you, very gung-ho.
Yes.
And I said, you know what, we're going to have these core values and core beliefs. And I want to change everybody's belief, and they're going to believe in these values that we're going to be able to market, and we're going to move on, and everything is going to be kumbaya, and it's going to be great. But then I started to realize that some beliefs are so deep-rooted that it'll take years to overcome.
Yes.
So it was important for me to not focus on the beliefs, but to focus on the behaviors. And so what I say all the time is, as educators, if I ask the question, how many of y'all believe that all kids can learn? 99.9% hand goes
Everybody.
up. But then it doesn't stop there. The other question is your behaviors aligned to your beliefs?
Right.
And so what I started focusing on is the reason we contract, Chapter 21 contracts for professional educators is based on their behaviors.
Right.
And so I started creating triggers toward those behaviors.
Okay.
And that has made all the difference because Rome wasn't built in a day. And so it becomes imperative that we go slow in order to go fast. And we're interested in creating the depth of knowledge than we are the surface knowledge.
I wish I had Dr. Larry Polk about 2 years ago, but, and it's hard
Yes.
because we all believe we're changing the world, right? And I had success every step of the way. Been in Houston ISD, Katy ISD, Tomball ISD, and then you get to a point and you see things that you know can be better for kids.
Exactly.
And having the awareness to, I'm going to go slow versus I'm going to go fix this now.
Right.
It's definitely something that is a great point that you just laid out, particularly for new administrators, new superintendents. I mean, that's a great piece of advice. And I appreciate you being candid with that piece because, I like to ask. And I'm very transparent with the mistakes I've made and how I approach things the wrong way.
Well, that's what makes us great leaders, is that we are willing to be transparent and know that I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And so I share that in the organization all the time. I said, look, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what I don't know, but the things that I do know, I know.
Yeah.
And when I know that I don't know, I'm not going to make something up. Because what happens is oftentimes practitioners get into a survival mode, especially with a new leader,
Yeah.
and nobody wants to be exposed. But I've said for years that this business will expose you. And not only are you going to be exposed, but I'm going to be exposed. It's like pulling the shower curtain back. What you see is what you get. If you don't like what you see, then get better, right? Don't get bitter, right? And so it's important that, again, we're truth tellers and we are transparent in our growth because otherwise we can't grow.
Yeah. I love that. All right, so I need your feedback on some other stuff. Now you got me thinking. Okay. So we were at these conferences and they're designed to help us grow as professionals.
Yes.
I believe that there is a need, instead of some of the panels, the fireside chats, where you hear about a lot of success, right? One of the hardest things to do is hear something and think that you can replicate that.
That's right.
Because the circumstances aren't the same.
Variables are different, the whole thing.
You don't do what they do well and vice versa.
Exactly.
But why would we not have more conferences on about all of the mistakes that we have made, right? Because it's not you just shared, like, look, I didn't learn that. I wasn't born with that.
Right.
There's some things I had to go through to get to that point and be a wiser leader.
Exactly.
But why would we not incorporate more of that?
Well, now here's the thing, Doc. That's a very great question, and it's a loaded question. And what I ask my constituents, as well as my bosses in terms of my board, do you really want the real answer to that question, or do you want to continue to go with the political answer of that question?
Right.
And many will say, no, I want the real answer. And it's almost like Jack Nicholson saying, you can't handle it. Because so much of our space is politically motivated,
Yes.
politically drawn, and so we create these classism components.
Okay.
That public education was never intended to be an isolated organization. We were intended to share
Right.
one with another. But with the A through F rating, it has caused us to no longer be willing to share. So if I get some good things happening in my organization, I want you to yield to me, I hold the secret recipe like KFC, and I'm not going to share it with anybody else. And that is a disservice to the 5 million kids that we serve in Texas.
I think it's a disservice to the whole paradigm. I mean, because we're always interested in how do we grow our next batch of leaders? How do we, recruit? How do we do all these things? But to me, I'm learning through other people's mode of thinking. I'm learning through the mistakes that they made. I'm learning through the coaching because they made a mistake and they're seeing me make a mistake. But if we don't share those things, and you're right, the truth hurts, and not everybody, everybody loves to be heard about the great things, but if you don't get to a point where you have a coach and a mentor that's walking you through all of the bumps in the road, I'm not doing you justice in what you can be as an aspiring leader.
No.
Right? And I really would like to change that thought process of, hey, let's just share out the successes. This is how you do this. This is how you do. I mean, those things are needed and those are great, but if we truly want to create the next evolution of school leadership, got to start focusing on all the wrongs, all the bads, all the missteps that we did, all of the things that we didn't predict that they were going to go this way.
Exactly.
So that future generations don't make those same mistakes.
Right. But that takes a servant leader. That takes a special leader who recognizes that my job is to work myself out of a job.
Absolutely.
But every leader doesn't think that.
Because
at some point, our egos get in the way. We don't check them at the door, and we start to believe that it's about us. You know
100%.
what I'm saying? And that it's nothing. But at the end of the day, it's about kids. Man.
Absolutely. It's about kids, and it's about all the people that you empower to do their job well.
That's exactly right.
You just happen to get the credit or the blame.
Right.
The quarterback. You get the credit or the blame.
That's right.
And it is a lonely spot, but I think we can do better with preparing our next generation and mentoring, the next crop of leaders.
I agree. I agree.
I just wanted your take on that because you seem like very thoughtful. I can tell you think through, number one, what you say and how you lead. And so I think that's important. I wanted your perspective on that.
Well, I appreciate that.
We got about 5 minutes. Is there anything else you want to hit from Colorado?
Hey, go Wolves. You know what I mean? Colorado ISD, like I said, we're an organization that's really recreating, rebranding who we are and what we're about. We're about kids. We're about building the capacity of everyone in the organization. We're about focusing on the real thing, which is student outcomes. Because, when I think about even my experience in public education, and I shared this with the group going back to those inaugural pieces that you share when you come into an organization. I told them, I said, think about all the teachers you had from pre-K kindergarten, some of it was first grade because they didn't have kinder, through 12th grade. And for me, it was 75 educators. And I said, then think about the number of teachers who made a positive impact in your life and may be the reason why you're sitting here today. And as a good leader, you model. As a good teacher, you model. For me, there were only 4. And so when we think about fractions, because we know that fractions turn into percentages, but they can also tell a story. And the story for me was that there was only 6% of my total teachers that I had that made a positive impact in my life. And I should have had 71 great teachers and 4 teachers that maybe did not. And the reality is that when we think about the K-12 experience, it should become personal. It should be to promote that every student has the ability to be CCMR, that every kid has the opportunity to live and have an abundant life. And the reality is that wasn't happening.
Right.
And so we pose the question, again, holding that mirror so practitioners can reflect, what are your students going to say about you? Will you be the one that make the difference in the lives of the kids? And if you're not contending to be that one, then you're probably in the wrong space.
Why are you here?
Yeah, you're probably in the wrong space.
See, I would have said that the wrong way. I would have said, well, why are you here then?
Yeah.
Because we're about kids.
Yeah.
And it's not about kids. But I've learned to be more tactful than that. But
Right.
but I could not agree more. And I just want to thank you for spending some time with me, man. I felt like I met a kindred spirit,
Yes, sir. Yes,
today.
sir.
So Colorado. I love it. I love that you corrected me on the pronunciation.
Yeah. Sea City Wolves, man.
Now, Dr. Polk, do you want to give out a Twitter handle or some way that the audience can get in touch with or follow you and keep up with what's going on?
I don't have any of that. I'm old school, man.
So
I just
he said write him a note.
Yeah, send me an email or give me a call, But we're in Sea City and we're glad to be there. Shout out to my board, shout out to that community because they love kids, man, and we're trying to do the very best work we can. We don't take the glory, it's all about God.
I appreciate that. And to all the listeners and viewers, if you'll go in and do the drill, like, subscribe, if you liked what you heard, please comment, share some thoughts on Dr. Polk and I's conversation. We really would appreciate it. And so thank you, sir, so much for being here. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You got it.
Produced by Podcast Architects.